The House of Commons has now wrapped the fall sitting, ending with the turmoil of Chrystia Freeland's resignation from cabinet. And with just over a month until U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office, Canada's premiers are calling for stability while staring down a 25% tariff threat. For more this morning, we are joined once again by New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt. Welcome back.
Thanks very much, Anne-Marie.
So you were among your fellow premiers in Toronto the day that Freeland resigned. At the end of those meetings, what's the feeling amongst premiers when it comes to tariffs that could be landing in 5 weeks?
Well, the feeling amongst premiers is that clearly we need to be a strong and stable group to provide leadership for Canada, and fighting these tariffs in a concerted, aligned team effort because the uncertainty in Ottawa could hurt us. And so we've all agreed that we're there. We're there for our residents, and we're there for Canadians to do everything we can to prevent these tariffs from being put in place.
You've been asked as premiers to keep up a united Team Canada approach, but who should captain that team?
Oh, that's a good question. We certainly talk about needing to make sure that all of our unique interests are represented collectively. And currently, Premier Ford is the chair of COF. But I think many of us are very interested in ensuring that we all have input at that table. And that's something that we've been asking the federal government for.
I like to take a look at timelines and at the calendar because they really help outline the urgency of what's happening. Donald Trump is going to be president the next time that the House of Commons sits. That's January 27th. We know he comes in January 20th. He continues his trolling of Canada, including with this post on Truth Social. This is the latest one, which in part reads, "No one can answer why we subsidize Canada to the tune of over $100 million a year. Makes no sense. Many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st state." Trump, we know, says he's going to implement the tariff threats on day one, so we could be looking at January 21st. Is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the right leader for this moment?
Well, I think we need a strong, stable negotiator. We were pleased to see the choice of Dominic LeBlanc to both continue his intergovernmental relations and do it from the position of finance minister. I think he has a lot of both authority and skill in terms of the relationship building and the negotiation that needs to happen. But Canada's premiers are going to be there at the table to support him and to leverage all of our connections with our neighboring governors and the key players in the U.S. who agree that these tariffs could be really hurtful to the American economy and the American stock market. And we think that the president will find that compelling. Yeah,
you were speaking with Maine Governor Janet Mills a little bit later today, in fact, and you've said that you don't support this notion coming from Premier Ford of cutting off exports to the U.S. Your response to Trump's tariff threats. New Brunswick, though, has a lot at stake in these tariffs, in these threats. 92.1% of New Brunswick exports head down to the U.S. Most of that is oil and shellfish. So what response options are you looking at? When you meet with the governor today, what are you trying to hammer out?
Well, thankfully, the governor and I have already had a conversation, and it was clear that the integrated nature of our economies puts a lot of Maine at risk. I think about things like Maine lobster, the blueberries that they send for processing in New Brunswick to then come back to the U.S. That's going to get a lot more expensive. It's going to hurt jobs in the governor's state. As well as things like our forestry products that are desperately needed for the folks in Maine to tackle the housing crisis. So we're going to talk about ways that we can potentially get these tariffs from 25 down to 10, down to 0 by making that economic case about the impact of jobs for Americans as well as New Brunswickers and the inflationary pressure this is going to put on the American economy, things that we know President Trump does not want.
Yeah, I'm curious, in your conversations, you said you've spoken with her before. So what's her response to the tariff threat? What does she think of it? I know what you think of it. What does she think of it?
Well, I mean, I don't want to put words in her mouth, as she certainly expressed to us that she sees that this will be hurtful to Maine's economy. A lot of concerns about jobs and the workforce and how this will make things a lot more expensive for Americans. And so we're looking to talk further about how the Trump administration's team is coming together. It's still not clear to us exactly who we're going to be negotiating with, as people like Mr. Lutnick and others get put into roles. And so we're trying to leverage every governor. Actually, the premiers agreed that we're all going to go down to the National Governors Association meeting because we think we have a lot of allies in the western states, the eastern states, and others that will along with the CEOs of the US, help make the case of the kind of pain this will cause to the American economy.
Premier Holt, I'm going to go back to the calendar for a moment. We've got 5 weeks until potentially tariffs, whether it's 25, 15, 10, or 5% are coming. And at 92.1% exports to the U.S., that's going to hurt you regardless. You have said that your province is preparing for the worst. What does the worst look like in New Brunswick, and what are you doing as preparatory measures?
Well, we're doing a lot of different things, right? We're looking at ways we can support our business community. We're looking at alternatives to export. So if our oil isn't getting into those New England states that desperately want it and need it, there are other places that it can go, and lining up some of those options. We're looking at support programs. We're looking at appropriate retaliation measures. Are there types of import tariffs that we can put on U.S. goods that would be particularly impactful to certain folks in the U.S. that might help us demonstrate that economic case? We're meeting with our business community to figure out how they can continue to compete, what kind of supports make sense, and how we make sure that we're protecting New Brunswickers and their jobs and our economy.
We spoke to you very soon after you won this role of Premier of New Brunswick, and I bet at that time neither of us imagined this is the conversation we would be having at this point. Premier Susan Holt, thanks for being with us today. Good luck in your conversations this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.